Roxanne, stop. Hi everybody, this is Chris and Cassie with SONday Chronicles. Happy Friday. And this is episode 40. And this one is called Understanding Racism. So I feel like a very relevant topic, but we are going to be talking about a variety of things, from labels to closet racism to history, a lot of things. It's going to be a good talk. So here we go.
All
We're
right.
going to get started.
Yeah. So inspired by,
The one and only.
inspired by the President of the United States of America, and something he said about
Haiti.
Haiti.
You want to scoot back so you're in the camera?
Yeah. And just a lot of things that I've observed with racism, and a lot of things that I've come to understand about racism, my experience with it and seeing it. A lot of people have responded to what was said, but I want to kind of talk about it from the standpoint of trying to understand racism, facing a fear of a lot of people, and making it go away. Because when you face your fear, it will go away when you understand it. And so Martin Luther King Jr.'s nephew was at the White House today, and his name is Isaac Newton Ferris Jr., and he met with the president, like the day after he said all these things about Haiti, et cetera, and he said today in an interview after he met with him that Donald Trump isn't a racist, he's racially ignorant. And I thought about that for a second. I was thinking, okay, racially ignorant. That is what is racist anyway? So we're going to dive into all of that other stuff. But racially ignorant. And I kind of agree with that.
Mm-hmm. That's the first time I've heard that. And
yeah.
I mean, that goes along with how we say he doesn't seem to know any better. Was indoctrinated in all these things.
Yeah.
It kind of, to me, goes along with that. It's
Yeah.
part of the indoctrination is racial ignorance.
Yeah. And then today was the eight-year anniversary of the major earthquake in Haiti that killed 220,000 people. And unfortunately, because of ignorance, that's the type of coverage that it's just been I think it could be prevented with education about it and kind of diving and digging. So first off, what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves and what we think about ourselves. Can you expand on that and kind of tie it in with racism?
Well, we've talked a lot about, I think it feels like almost every episode or every other episode, it's what you see in others is a reflection of you. So the hate, let's say you see someone, like we've talked about, the President of the United States, showing open hate towards others or groups of people, it's because of how he feels about himself. And I think that's interesting when you tie that into racism. I mean, if you're calling, for example, what did President Trump say? Haiti is shithole country.
Yeah, he said, why do we have to have immigrants from shithole countries?
That's his view. I don't know. The thing is he may come across his ego. I feel like Donald Trump's ego comes across, and his ignorance, as he thinks he's better than everybody in all these things and superior. However, inside is a weak man.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm really tying in. I'm not prepared. Like, I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves. He sees himself as king, and I keep saying this over and over again, but he keeps shoving his head up his ass more and more and more and more, and what he sees in others is a reflection. He has a problem with everyone.
Every single group of people, every
from
person.
the NFL to the great people of Haiti to
it's always something.
Immigrants to DACA.
Well, didn't he? The only thing I've heard him say, besides something vulgar about women to him, which is not
to
Haiti,
women,
but
Norway
it seems is like the only thing he said something positive about.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't even say positive, but.
But I mean,
anyway.
he points out a flaw in everybody but himself, and this one today was about finally a reporter, a young woman, kept getting ignored, and she goes, "Mr. President, are you a racist?" And I was proud of that woman. It took a lot of courage. Finally, someone said it. I've said it a number of times throughout this. Which ties into closet racism, and this is a term that I coined this recently by this observation of this group of people and what they're doing. And I've said this before as well.
And we've seen this in our life too.
Yeah, this is a personal experience for me. They're hiding this racism behind a cross and a political party, and it's a Christian conservative movement, and it's harboring racism. And my observation even further down is this: how do you prevent that? Is racism, what is it? And this is how I see it.
Or what causes it? Why does it even exist?
Why does racism, why is it even prevalent in society or in our culture? Racism is do people identify themselves as racists? No. I don't think they see themselves as. What they do identify themselves with is a particular group that has a belief system put into play that says if they aren't like us, hate them. And every holy war from the beginning until today is based on racism.
Yeah.
So racism is an identification with a group that has a belief system put into play that says if they're not like us, hate them. And you see that with Trump's DACA. You see that with his wall. He wants. This is a perspective of life, and I don't want to focus on Trump. This isn't my what I wanted to do. What I want to focus on today are the millions and millions of people who manifest this man, because they are exactly like him. He's going away very soon. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Very soon there will no longer be a Trump to talk about in the media. What will still exist are the millions and millions of people who identify with the same group that he identifies with, that will still have that hate and that racism. They'll still...
They're still holding on to that belief system, which...
There are people right now, when he said that about Haiti, they probably jeered and cheered. Or agreed. And there are millions and millions...
That closet. That's what I've seen many times, personally, is you can feel it and you can see it, that they're not going to say it, but their blatant support of the current government or whatever's going on. They won't say it though, and it's
my deal is this. I've taken Adolf Hitler's regime, And it's a very similar regime to the Trump administration. The only difference is the Adolf Hitler's Nazis party, the Nazi followers, and himself were openly racist. That is the only difference between Trump's administration and Adolf Hitler's. It's like a faux.
But what's really interesting is it's now coming out, though. Like, he's once again outing himself.
Sure.
He can't keep it in. Like, you can't. We talked about this today a little bit. You can't fake it. You can't fake anything in life. As much as I feel people may think they can, you can't, because the truth surfaces, and eventually you can't hold it in any longer, and the truth shows. And I think that's what we're seeing on the public stage again. And I know we didn't want to focus this on Trump, but it's just such a good example.
I mean, I think that if everybody would identify, again, this is an observation, but I think that the identification with a group that tells you to hate someone else because they're not like you, that's where it all begins. And
identification with the group that tells you how to live your life, tells you what to do.
Right. Have guidelines. I thought about Barbie and Ken today. Okay? Follow me on this. Barbie and Ken, whenever they were created, are the example of the good guy and good girl in the world. And the reason I say that is this. I'm a very eccentric looking person. I understand that. I get it. If I were to ask you to judge me from a conservative Christian standpoint right now, you could do so. And the reason I say that is because our original gym was in a specific area that is very conservative. So much so that a quarter mile from the high school, there was an Exxon Mobil that had one of those little spin things full of rebel flag stickers, Obama this, blah, blah, blah.
Right next to those rebel flag stickers was the Christian flag
stickers. Yeah, were the Christian flag stickers. And I asked the gentleman at the thing, I'm like, and it just floored me. But that specific area is, I've seen it firsthand. I've dealt with it firsthand. This type of mindset, belonging to a group that tells you to hate someone
anyone
else.
That doesn't look like me, doesn't act like me, doesn't work out like me, doesn't do these things, is either scary, wrong, whatever, and
evil.
And it's just
I don't know, but
again, when it's just things that we've experienced personally, and we see it on a large scale too. So it's just, if it's happening to us, it's happening everywhere. I think,
especially in the South. I don't know. I'm from this is my area, but it's become way too comfortable. And I think by having these sort of talks, I could have come out like everybody else and responded. Yes, it was, but what is that going to do? I think
the biggest thing, and I know you have so much to talk about with this, but going back to the identifying yourself with a group that first of all tells you what to do, doesn't allow you to think for yourself. There's a set of rules in place.
Self-entitlement.
But all of that really is where racism starts, because it's turning people against one another when that's not that's not life. That's not what we're here for.
What you're telling me and what I'm seeing is that if the belief system put in that has that, or that group that you're a part of has that sort of belief system of, if they're not like us, hate them.
And not all, and that's the thing too. I understand that there are churches that don't teach this. There are groups that do not teach. They do teach love, and it's a tool to get you closer to the divine. I understand that. We're once again saying what we see in what this large movement in the United States and all over the place that's happening with politics and religion combining and causing this hate of others.
Yeah.
And it's all around us. I mean, you see it everywhere. And like you said, it's just even with everything that's happened this past year, it's still, people are too comfortable with the fact it's like, oh yeah, it just is how it is, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, it's a year into this administration, and, you know, the one woman today finally asked that question, President Trump, are you a racist?
What happened?
He walked out.
Well, I think everyone knows the answer to that.
Well, I mean,
But he would not identify himself as
that's
that.
what, yeah, my question was,
Because
I was
people
like,
are
does
so grasped onto
Yeah.
their belief systems that they'll do anything so absurd not to look at
They're
themselves.
right.
Because if you look at yourself, you'll find love
Yeah.
eventually.
It's become
But what were you saying about self-entitlement?
self-entitlement goes along with racism. Think about it. You are
To be self-entitled, isn't that to believe that you deserve everything and you are better? Is it
God
just
complex.
Yeah.
And we've discussed God complex, and the number of these is that the further you get away from the source, the more you become God. And therefore, what your belief systems put in play, you don't see yourself as anything other than the one. Yeah, that's fascinating.
I kind of got lost in that one. But no, what is that with Jeff Sessions? What's that?
Oh, I was.
I don't know if that fits, but
This is. Well, you know, he's gonna. He's gonna.
I think what we're seeing, once again, we keep talking about the current administration, but it's just a good example. We're watching this crumble.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, it's up to perspective, because a lot of people may not even see this crumble happening. They don't consider it that, supporters perhaps, but they're crumbling themselves also. They're part of that cyclone we talked about that's, you know...
Yeah, going back to the millions and millions of people that were... Their perspective today was cool. That happened. Millions of times, and I'm thinking to myself,
insecurities support insecurities,
Yeah.
and so, and like attracts like. So for them, it was like, I feel part of, you know, it's...
You ever thought about this? Why does the word hate go with the word groups? They're called hate groups. It's not hate individual. Like, the more of the individual you become, the more of the one you see. The more of, further away you get from it, the more you attach yourself with the groups.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's the less you know yourself, and the more you seek externally, the more you attach to other groups who are also seeking externally.
Great.
And it becomes this...
That was great.
You know?
Seeking externally. This goes right back to it. If you're seeking externally with a group that brings you happiness and joy, and that little group that makes you feel comfortable, you're also giving that group the power to destroy you. And I think that with what's happening, you're going to see the cliff is coming, and I don't know, it's just
But I think if these groups satisfy your ego, and where I'm going with this is I've seen this firsthand based on comments and things like that recently from others. People don't care. It's their selfish agenda, basically.
Agendas.
Where someone is so happy that maybe, for example, Trump's starting to pass something like something that, let's say he wanted to open the...
something selfish.
I'm totally blanking here. You know what I'm trying to say? So, let's say his movement is to start up the coal mines again. Okay? Like, Trump's going to do that. That's all an individual cares about. They don't care how racist, they don't care how awful, how hateful this person is, as long as it satisfies what their desire is.
Let's talk about drilling on native land for oil.
Yeah, and people are like, well, I'm going to make money, so I don't care about
poisoning your water.
All these things, if it satisfies their ego and their desire. Yeah. I just have this thought and I can't get it out. You know where I'm going with this?
Nope,
kind of?
I do not.
Well, anyways, talk about the agendas, though. I think that we can go somewhere with that.
Selfish, we always say that there is no good or evil. There is only selfish and selfless agendas. And I think that racism is a selfish agenda. I think that when you think separation is involved, you're actually separating yourself from the rest of humanity.
And it goes back to, you're also the furthest away from yourself.
Yeah.
But it also goes back to, God, I'm not doing good tonight. It goes back to feeling superior and believing you're superior to another person.
Self-entitlement.
Yeah.
So all in all, my deal is this. We've already discussed that the only reason racism exists is because you're involved with a group that has a belief system put into play that says, if they're not like us, we hate them. And that leads sometimes to death of those people that they hate. That leads to war with other countries that are different. And that is how it's always been, you know. And I think that if people step back and take a look at those groups that you're involved with, and why is that group so insecure about its belief systems that it doesn't want you involved with anyone else but that group? I think that question right there is like...
Well, if there's a head honcho in the group or whatever you want to call it, it's all about control. Because when you have people... Manipulation and control for their own selfish agenda, probably money, or something like that, and power and all these things. So you're going to stroke the ego, basically, and give them all their wants or whatever it may be.
Pretend to give them
freedom when really it's teaching more, again, hate others that aren't like us. And it all, I mean, you see it all the time.
You know what? I thought about nature, and I thought about, what if the plant and tree and, you know, the plant kingdom decided tomorrow to create a belief system that said, fuck the human being. We don't like them. They're not like us. No more oxygen. You know why nature isn't racist? Because nature knows it's God. And nature knows it's one. That's why the only place that racism exists is in the human being. Because of that confusion, that ignorance set into play. And I've said it 6-7 times. A belief system that allows you or tells you to hate another human being is the reason racism exists.
Do you think, how does it happen then, do you think? Because we've seen it with kids. It's not, because you're not attached to a belief system when you're born.
Sure.
Or maybe you're indoctrinated into one. But what is it that causes someone to attach to a belief system? You think I think it's a variety of things, but what? Insecurity, the need for dominance?
You're talking about kids?
Well, like I think it's heavy indoctrination.
Yeah.
To believe a certain thing.
What causes you to join it?
But what causes you to continue in at like a young age? Are you getting desires fulfilled? Are you insecure? Like, what is happening that even starts this?
Wow,
you know
that's
a
great question.
I think it's different for everybody, but...
The feeling of wanting to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. And if you're in that same group with everyone else, y'all are all... The only reason that you're in that specific group is to have that group.
Yeah.
It's tough to be an individual. It's tough to go within, and we always say it. It's like...
Yeah, it's especially growing up.
It's
you're
tough to face your fears.
You're going through all these things, and to be an individual, depending on who your parents are, how you're being raised, all of these things, your environment... Have you been given the freedom to be who you are, or are you being indoctrinated? And I think that's indoctrination is all part of everything we've talked about tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously where it starts, but
it's been around, I'm sure racism has been around since the human being has been around, but I think that if you can understand that it is that group that has that belief system that tells you to do something, that's it. And I think if those go away, racism goes away. But other than that, happy Friday.
thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
It was a interesting discussion. I'm going to keep talking about this. I think.
No, this is probably part one, but it's been, I wanted to dive into it and open up some questions for everybody else. And hopefully we've got some questions and understandings on the comments. But thank you, everybody.